With inflation soaring past 17%, Sri Lanka is going through its worst economic crisis since its independence on 4th February 1948. We all now know this. Now the ripples of this crisis have reached India too. Alarmed by price rise, hunger and loss of jobs, people from the island nation are seeking refuge in India, and India is doing its best to help the neighbouring country. India has extended financial assistance to the tune of $2.4 billion in the last 3 months to Sri Lanka, which includes a $400 billion RBI currency swap, deferral of a $500 million loan and a $1.5 billion credit line for importing fuel, food and medicines. In addition to an International Monetary Fund bailout, the Sri Lanka has sought credit support of $2.5 billion from China. The island has been going through daily power cuts and double-digit inflation, which hit 17.5% in February. The Sri Lankan Central Bank allowed the local currency to devalue by 30% in a month. The crisis has been mainly caused by a shortage of foreign exchange reserves. They have plummeted 70% in 2 years to just $2 billion at the end of February. This can barely cover 2 months of imports. Meanwhile, the country has foreign debt obligations of about $7 billion this year. The forex crisis is the result of several factors. Tourism, which is the country's third largest foreign exchange earner, came to a virtual halt after the 2019 Easter Sunday suicide bombings. The incident had killed more than 250 people. Tourist arrivals dropped by as much as 70%, and then came the COVID that dealt a severe blow to the tourism industry. And flow of money from foreign workers, which is the nation's biggest source of dollars, slumped 22.7% to $5.5 billion in 2021. The country's high dependence on imports for essential goods like sugar, pharmaceuticals, fuel, pulses and cereals worsened the crisis. The government's ban on chemical fertilizers last April, as it embraced organic farming, backfired. A survey showed that 90% of Sri Lanka's farmers used chemical fertilizers for cultivation. This led to drastic decrease of domestic food production, pushing up food prices. The decision was rolled back after months of mass protests by farmers, but the damage was done. Food inflation soared to 25.7% in February. The crisis is now starting to impact Indian exporters. Thousands of containers sent from India to Sri Lanka, including for its own consumption as well as transshipment cargo, have been lying uncleared at Colombo port as authorities can't afford to transfer containers between terminals. This in turn has led to some accumulation of cargo intended for Sri Lanka at Indian ports. India also relies considerably on Colombo port for global trade, given it is a transshipment hub. 60% of India's transshipment cargo is handled by the port. India-linked cargo in turn accounts for 70% of the port's total transshipment volume. India has traditionally been among Sri Lanka's largest trade partners. Prior to the pandemic, India was the top tourism source for Sri Lanka. More than 1/5 of Sri Lanka's total imports come from India. India is also one of the largest contributors to foreign direct investment in Sri Lanka. FDI from India amounted to about $1.7 billion from 2005 to 2019. After China and the UK, India was the biggest source of FDI for Sri Lanka in 2019 at $139 million. The main investments from India are in the areas of petroleum, retail, tourism and hotel, manufacturing, real estate, telecommunication, banking and financial services. A number of leading companies from India have invested and established their presence in Sri Lanka. These include Indian Oil, Airtel, Taj Hotels, Dabur, Ashok Leyland, Tata Communications, Asian Paints, SBI and ICICI Bank. Although Sri Lanka holds less importance to India in terms of trade, it is a geopolitically important country and India needs to counter the growing Chinese influence on its economy. However, any disruption in Colombo port operations makes India vulnerable to an increase in costs and congestion issues. The fact that work on building a transshipment hub in Kerala has begun is a positive thing. Anyway, India is eagerly waiting to see Sri Lanka come out of the economic crisis very soon.